Whatever the dynamics are that you were trying to meet, did you meet those criteria? You'll see all that. If you lay them out in advance, as we always talk about, you'll be able to make proactive decisions. Can you buy a piece of equipment versus rent a piece of equipment? All those decisions can be made at the high level of the business if you build project level cash flows first. You must manage cash flow on a project by project basis. There's just too much great information for you to see. There's too much power in the information. It's where all of your value and decisions can be made. Welcome to the Construction MF'ers podcast. I am 𝗧𝗵𝗲, founder and CEO of Mobilization Funding, and today we are going to talk about project cash flows, business cash flows. What's the difference between the two? Should I do one or the other or both? What's the difference, right? Let's get into it. Right off the gate, project cash flows are critical. If you had to do one or the other and survive, I would tell you to do project cash flows, because starting at the most granular level and working your way all the way up to the business on its surface all the way over the top, it's going to be much easier for you to start at the bottom than start at the top and work your way down. So in the construction business or any business that you're thinking about building cash flows, maybe if you're in manufacturing or other business, you're building them by customer, you're building them by business segment, division, etc. But in the construction world, we're going to build them by project. So how does that look? Well, project cash flows built by project can easily, if built on the same template, with a little bit of Excel knowledge or hiring some Excel knowledge, those individual projects can be rolled up simply, if you use the same template, into one overall business cash flow. So if you start at the project level and lay them all out individually, not only will you be able to see project by project where your goals are, where the projects you set out, did you hit the cost? Did you have your right labor cost? Was it more high, less low? Whatever the dynamics are that you were trying to meet, did you meet those criteria? You'll see all that. If you lay them out in advance, as we always talk about, you'll be able to make proactive decisions. Now, what is important about that? If you're making decisions project by project, and then you're tracking those decisions week by week, month by month, as the projects get executed and finished, you can then take each one of those projects weekly and roll them up into the overarching business cash flow. And once you have the overarching business cash flow, then you can make big picture decisions like, how much money do I need over the course of the next year? If I'm going to take out a loan like an SBA loan, or I'm going to bring in an investor, or how much tax will I need to pay at the end of the year? Or how much of this retained earnings should I keep in the business because I'm going to need to invest in the first, second, third, or quarter of next year versus, or how much taxes do I need to pay? Or how about the old question of, can I take out a distribution from my business and how much money? Will it hurt me? Those are the types of big picture decisions that you'll be able to make using a business cash flow overall. But if you try to make that decision and make assumptions for what's going to happen at the project level, you're going to have a pretty flawed model. The variances are going to change dramatically because too many things happen on a project by project basis. Now, if you build them up from the project level and you're managing everything to the project level, two things you pretty much are going to do no matter what anyway, because you can't run a business without running a project. You can't run a project without bidding it. You can't bid the project without knowing what your specific costs are. And of course, you can't execute it without having a schedule. So you're already doing all the details for the project anyways. You might as well get them into a project cash flow so you can make proactive decisions, make sure they roll up to the right way. And if you just use the same template that you do for every project, you can roll those up with a quick Excel formula, which I'm not the one to teach you that to you, but there's plenty to do it. They roll them up into one, and now you have a business cash flow that you can look at week by week, month by month, and understand what your cash flow needs are. Those are things that your accounting department, your accountant, your bookkeepers, whoever's ordering materials, controlling cash for labor, rolling in your administrative costs, can you buy a piece of equipment versus rent a piece of equipment, all those decisions can be made at the high level of the business if you build project level cash flows first. All right, so let's do a couple case studies. I'm going to share a few instances where this type of information can help you. Aside from talking about distributions and how much money do I need and how much money will I have in tax, do I need to pay in tax, should I keep in the business, outside the business, buying equipment, all those things are critical decisions that as a business owner or a leader in any business, you're going to be making. But let's look at some case studies. We had a client who had 4 or 5 specific customers. They were in the directional drilling space. Each customer had different work orders, different geographical locations, different workforces. Some of them were contract labor forces, some of them were direct labor forces. They owned equipment, they rented equipment. These are drills. Each customer had different terms, sometimes 30-day terms, 60-day terms. These customers all determined how they were going to be paid to our customer in general and what their terms were. And our customer's happy to accept them. Because you know what, when you're growing your business, you don't take 5 customers on at once. You start with the customer you can get into, you take on another customer, you start to learn things like drilling in the sand has a different cost than drilling in the rock. You know, all of these different items that come about when you're working in different geographies for different customers. Are you doing utility work? Or are you working for the backbone of fiber optics, etc.? Anyways, what was critical to find out is when they managed this by project, which also segmented out their customers at this point, they quickly were able to see that certain customers had significantly different margins, even though they bid the pricing the same. Now, why do I say that? Some jobs just take longer. Sometimes certain crews could work more efficiently. Sometimes certain geographical locations could be done differently. All of these things are more easily seen when they started managing these project by project, or in this case, work order by work order, customer by customer. At one time when they thought that certain drill crews were just better than the other, what they soon realized was that is true. Certain drill crews are more advanced than others and were more efficient in getting more work done. But those same drill crews in certain locations were also more efficient or less efficient in other locations. Those same customers, when they were paying them for certain places under certain contracts at certain times, they started to give up more margin. So what they were able to do is see that stuff in advance. And now the next contract negotiation, they could build in little ancillary items for back trips when they needed to go back. Or they realized that working crews of 4 people instead of 3, or 6 people instead of 4, or when you implement 2 drills, you need to do such and such. All these little nuances they figured out when they had the information at their fingertips, doing it project by project. Now, if you just laid out an assumption for all of these different customers and all these different projects based on the first set of projects that you did with one customer as you grew your business, and you just adopted that system and then implemented it over across the rest of your growth, you're not going to get that kind of level of detail. You might not see those nuances. What you'll notice is that you just, at the end of every month, you're just as profitable, not as profitable. You'll never be able to see where the efficiencies or the inefficiencies are that you can capitalize on. There's one example. I'll give you another example. Take a traditional concrete contractor. They realized that building condo towers was much different than building parking garages. Of course, there's a lot of nuance to that. They also realized that certain forms, certain types, certain crews had better advantages when they would do their own forming in concrete, others when they would use more specific types of other forms, where they would use contract other services, like DOCA, for example, would come in and they would utilize DOCA forms to build their structures instead of their traditional methods. So they started to realize when it was advantageous to do it themselves and when it was more cost effective to bring in what they always thought was a more costly form of forms like DOCA. And so those specific project level decisions and analysis allowed them to have a much better feel for those individual jobs. And since you earn money job by job, project by project, as they roll up, it gives you and your accounting and your finance team a much easier idea of what types of projects are going to contribute what types of margin and profit to your overall business. So that when you are bidding or you're planning, if you know that when you do condominium towers, you make 10% more than when you do parking garages or vice versa, you're going to be cautious and more careful about how many parking garages you bid projects versus condos, or you're going to want a good mix. You want to know that if you have a different type of mix and project, then you're going to have to layer in a larger overhead contribution to make sure that your profitability can account for your overhead. Whereas if you have more profitable projects or more profitable customers, you can put more overhead on those projects and still be profitable. Those are the types of decisions and things you can see. Those are just two specific examples, one from concrete, one from directional drilling, that are customers of ours that we worked with a long time and watched them grow. So today, quick hitting video, project management, project cash flows, overall cash flows. What's the best way to do it? Should you do both? Should you do one versus the other? I think we figured out. It's best to do both, no doubt about it. But at a minimum, you must manage cash flow on a project by project basis. There's just too much great information for you to see. There's too much power in the information. It's where all of your value and decisions can be made that can actually help you in your business, not only from an efficiency perspective, from a customer delivery perspective, performance of your team, happiness of your team. And look, we're in business to make money. Project by project is where you make your money. So therefore, project by project is where you can increase your profitability. Having those cash flows so you can make profitable decisions proactively is critical. And the more profitable decisions you make project by project, obviously those are going to roll up and your business is going to be profitable. If you're profitable on every project, you're going to have a profitable business. If you're not profitable on certain projects and others, if you're making assumptions at the company level and there's a problem, how do you even know where to look? This is why it's so critical for project by project cash flows. We have a great tool on our website. It's free. If you like that tool or any version of it, modify it. Use it yourself. Take something, give it to your accountant, have them build you one that's specific for you. It doesn't matter how you do it. Just make sure that information that you have is accessible to you in some manner. I hope this video helped you. Please implement these things. If you don't believe me, just do it for one project only. See that project from start to finish and tell me if you had an easier time doing it. Tell me what information you learned. Tell me what decisions you were able to make. Or if it sucks, tell me it sucks too. I'd love to help you out. But if this video helped you guys, if it makes sense, try it, implement it. Share this with your friends, pass it on, click subscribe on our YouTube channel, check us out on LinkedIn. And until next time, have a great week and God bless you.